Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Well, welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini.
And today we're going to talk about who's really running your practice.
That's a good question.
Well, I think the easy answer is your front desk CA is really the powerhouse that's running your practice, docs.
Is that coming from someone who has experience in that area?
Listen, yes, I started my career in chiropractic as a chiropractic assistant. And if that intrigues you, our episode 0, our introductory episode, will give you more information about me. You can fast forward through the Dr. Davini portions of that episode.
Not that he doesn't just like talking about himself.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But
I'm cutting him off at that right now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Right. I'm glaring. So, all my chiropractic assistant peeps out there, hey, holla. I have to say that it is true that so much happens through that front desk. You really do wield a lot of power in the office. And of course, you use it responsibly, I'm sure. And yes, docs, your jaws have dropped. You're like, no, not in my office. Well, hate to break it to you, but yeah, kind of, sort of. So let's talk about chiropractic assistants, the front desk specifically. And, I have to say that when I became a chiropractic assistant, I had no clue what chiropractic really was. I certainly didn't know the job in any way, shape, or form. But I had a great mentor who really leaned into supporting me as a CA. Now, he didn't really teach me himself. I mean, he did some stuff. He was a Parker Principles kind of guy and certainly went to some of those seminars and learned a lot, but learned a lot along the way myself. But I have to say that I never felt like it was a job. I really did feel like I stepped into a career. And that, I think, from a standpoint of my mentality about what I was doing at the time and finding a career versus a job, there was a big difference. Doc, I think it really helped me. And I think it would help other CAs if that's how they came into the work.
Well, if you really take, the whole process of someone coming to a chiropractic office, the whole process involves healing. From the minute they call to the first time they walk through the door to the when they walk out of the door from being treated, it's all a healing process. And I'll pose this to you. Who's the first person they're in contact with?
It's got to be the CA, typically, right?
Yeah, front desk, right? And who's the first person they see when they walk in the door?
That glowing, effervescent CA at the front desk.
Yes, that dashing, handsome gentleman behind the desk.
Always
right?
has a smile, right?
Always has. And who's the last person they see when they walk out that door?
Well, it's going to be that same dashing person that they'll just remember as they walk out the door.
Which was a cousin of Paul, actually.
Yeah. So, wow. That hurts.
That hurts, yeah. So the point being is that the last contact, front desk. So when we talk about who has an important role in the office, of course, the doctor does. They're doing what they do. But healing goes far beyond just receiving an adjustment, even the best adjustment in the world. Healing can be so enhanced by the whole experience. And when people love to come to your office, when they enjoy it, when it's a fun, healing atmosphere, then they're going to respond better to the care and more completely to the care. And the only way to make that happen is through the CAs.
When we teach our Rockstar CA or how to be a Rockstar CA program in person, we have obviously for us, maybe not for you guys out there, but we do have our on-demand stuff for our members. We talk about this ambassadorship that a CA, a chiropractic assistant, has in the office as part of their role. Now, in today's world, it's easy for a CA to get caught up in putting their nose in the computer to make sure the demographics are put in and the schedule's correctly put in and, not looking up and recognizing that patient as they walk in the door. Just, in chiropractic, we don't see it as much because there really is an emphasis on that patient-centered care.
It's one of the number one criticisms of medicine is that they don't get enough personal attention.
Or when you call, you have to hit a bunch of options to talk to a live person.
Yeah, and then you still aren't talking to a live person. Or even worse yet, I had one situation where I call looking for the doctor, and the phone rings, then it gets answered, and before I can even breathe, they go, "Hold, please," and they shove me right on hold without me ever getting a word out.
Yeah, that was me. Sorry.
But I can't. But I'm looking at that saying, is that any better than the automated system? At least the automated system gives me the respect of hearing me.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, dealing with automated systems with carriers a lot. Yeah. Even hearing that live person, because you might hear them again, right?
You might
be on hold.
That's right.
The worst part is being on hold with no music and you're not even sure if you're still on hold, right?
Right.
You're staring at your phone going, am I still connected? But, looking back at all the chiropractic assistant colleagues I worked with over the years, I have to say that not all CAs are, let's say, fit for the front desk job. And I think it depends on their personalities a lot because, the front desk, it takes a lot of different skills, right? You have to have the skill of time management and multitasking, of course, but also the personality and the patience to work with patients. Exactly. And you have to be bold with approaching patients to collect a fee. And that collection of copays and deductibles and balances, those collections are higher than they used to be, right? Because patient responsibilities they grow every year with insurance carriers, rising copays, deductibles, shrinking benefits, things like that, right?
I'm amazed at how many people hire front desk staff who are afraid to ask for money.
Yeah, I've had a few of those along the way, and sometimes that's not something that you can teach, right? Because if they're really shy or they've got a poverty complex where, maybe they can't afford the $50 copay, so why would they ask somebody else for it?
Exactly.
And they're making a prejudgment of that person.
Or they don't have a full understanding of the miracles of chiropractic and the benefits of being there. So
spoken like a true chiropractor right there.
Yeah, I know. So their commitment isn't as strong as it should be.
Right. So, and then, okay, Doc, how would you know that? You've hired and fired CAs along the way. How would you know whether that person is suited for that job?
Well, a lot of times there's many different systems out there for typecasting, if you're going to use that term. But we're going to use one just for an example. Basically, it's a personality style issue. There are those people who just innately can and cannot confront. So when you look at that and you break it down a little bit, you could have a category that, again, certain systems call an amiable. An amiable would be a person who is not assertive, but they're very responsive. So they're the people that have this big bursting personality, but they can't confront. So imagine this person as your front desk person. Yeah, they might be great PR. Everybody loves them. They're fun to be with. But then it comes time to ask for the money. They just can't do it. So everybody will say, oh man, I love Mary. She's great. Or that Paul, he's exceptional. But you don't collect any money. You don't do the co-pays. Now what happens is maybe that money balance starts to increase. And now, all of a sudden, that balance is so high that the doctor has to step in and try and collect the money, and now the patient can't afford it. You've affected their healing process because you've made money a barrier by not doing that job. So an amiable wouldn't be your perfect person for the front job. We used to have a chair in my office. We called it the amiable chair because it wasn't visible to the front desk. It was up against a wall of the front desk area. And I remember one time a patient was sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. Patients were going back and forth, and they were just sitting there. And for whatever reason, my staff just missed that person's name on the sign-in sheet and started going down the list, passing over this person. And after about 20 minutes or so, the patient comes up because they can't confront, and they'll go, excuse me, did you forget me? And then you look and you go, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay. That's okay, when they're really angry.
Right.
But they won't tell you that. And the amiable is the person that you push, and then they explode. And they're that patient that all of a sudden, for some reason, leaves your practice and you can't figure it out. But it's not any one thing. It's been the cumulative effect of them not being able to confront you for the reasons why they might be unhappy. You never know. But in our case, as a front desk person, you don't want an amiable in your front desk unless you just happen to have a greeter, sort of that greeter person in the big chain stores. Their only job is to say hello and be social, but the collecting will come from someone else at the front desk. So the amiable is not your best front desk person. There's another type called an analytical. These people are also not assertive, but they're also not responsive. They're very monotone. And
I don't know what you are talking about.
It's very monotone, and I'm trying to make my sitting here exciting, but
it's not, people, I can tell you. No, kidding.
So, that being said, you certainly wouldn't want your analytical at the front desk because they're going to say, hello, nice to see you today. Don't forget to sign in. We'll get to you in a minute. Not going to work. They have.
Sorry, were you talking?
I was talking. They don't have the responsiveness, and certainly they're not assertive. Then they have the driver. The driver is the person who is very assertive, but they're not very responsive. They'll walk in the door. They'll go, my appointment was 10 o'clock. It's 10:02. What's going on here? And they expect everything to just follow that. And they'll push you and push you and push you if things don't go the way they want them to go. Super assertive, but not very responsive. And then you have the expressive. They're very responsive and they're very assertive. You're just listening to two of them right now.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the perfect balance of all of them, obviously.
There you go. Expressives are the people that walk through the door and you immediately know they're there. I kind of use the analogy of Pigpen from Peanuts' character. You know, there's that cloud of dust that Pigpen used to walk around with. And
I'm so sorry. I'm so young. I really don't know what you're talking
Peanuts. Instead of it being dust, it's this cloud of, look at me, I'm here,
Right.
Pay attention, it's me. So, but they have a personality and they're very assertive. They make an excellent front desk because they can be the personality and they can do the business. So sometimes when you're hiring and you're trying to find the right type to cast, knowing this helps. Because it's not to say these people don't have a place in the office. We're saying the front desk isn't the best place for them.
So that leads us into our membership moment portion of the podcast. And this is where we highlight some of our member questions, the support questions we get often. And what we've seen, the trends we've seen now is it seems to be difficult or more difficult to hire good quality CAs. And in looking at those challenges, I think part of it might be, the generational gaps that we have, because the younger people coming out looking for jobs, their whole approach to life is a little bit different than ours, right? I mean, not to put it too bluntly, but they have more of a work-life balance than we used to have, I think. And they're expecting that work-life balance. And
they don't want to put, any time at all into developing that work balance, that work-life balance. I was saying this in one of our other podcasts about associateships, where an associate was interviewing a doc and basically telling that doc, I want to work 4 days a week. Don't want to work past 6, and I want to make this much money. And those 2 days I want off, I want it to be Friday and Saturday. And of course the doc said, well, yeah, me too. That's why I'm hiring you. So their expectation is that right off the bat. Also, there's another problem. I used to be able to hire a CA as an entry-level person, knowing nothing about chiropractic, nothing about running a chiropractic office. And then
that was me.
That was Paul, right? Through through programs like Parker, which you participated in, we were able to move you through the learning process.
Right.
Some more difficult than others, but move you through the learning process and then teach you everything you need to know. The problem today is we can't teach them everything they need to know because, number one, half the time the doctors may not have all of the skills necessary. We have to have people come in with certain computer skills. We have to have people come in with a certain amount of understanding of accounting. So before, we didn't have computerized schedules, and we didn't have social media, and we didn't have computerized notes and electronic billing and clearing houses and all these things that just didn't exist before. So we were able to teach our staff everything. But yet doctors today are still trying to hire entry-level people, expecting intermediate-level understanding, knowledge, and skills. And yet they can't teach them those intermediate levels of knowledge and skills. And they get frustrated saying, well, I'll ask them a question like in our membership moment. They'll say, how come my CA is not being able to do this or do that? And you ask them a question and their answer will be, well, I don't know anything about that. I just let them take care of that. You're literally throwing, say, the collection of your business, the money side of your business onto someone who doesn't have any formal training in that area, yet you expect them to know something you don't know. So it's a very different work pool today. So that makes a difference. And then also, you have to be able to, if you can't impart this on a CA, then you have to make sure somebody does. But you have to make sure they know, can define, can express, and love chiropractic like you do. Jim Parker used to always say, if they knew what I know, there'd be no question about coming in. So if your CA isn't under care, whose fault is that? If they refuse care, which I don't understand why they would be working in your office if they did, but if they refused care, it's because they don't know enough. And if they don't know enough about chiropractic, that should definitely come from the doctor.
Or worse, they're afraid of chiropractic. How many times are they going to refer themselves, someone they know, or someone gets on the phone and wants to come in, but they have some reservations? How is this chiropractic assistant going to explain that?
Exactly.
Or
There's an example of what you're saying as a career. How many people do they refer in? How many people can say, oh, I met your front desk person and she said I need to come in because of this, that, and the other thing. So you have to take the responsibility to train these people and to get them the skills they need. If you don't have them, then you have to find someone that can get them to them, because this front desk person is running your practice.
That is true. And, in thinking about the front desk person, I can think back to colleagues I worked with, and boy, some of them, they were excellent at certain things, but they weren't in the right spot. Like that front desk you're talking about. If they can't ask the patient for money, you shouldn't be in the front spot. But maybe they're really aggressive on the phone, but not in person. Well, maybe they're good for the billing side because they can be as aggressive as they need to be when they're talking to an adjuster or something like that, right? Or maybe they're good at bookkeeping, or maybe, they've got a tender heart and they'd be good as a clinical CA versus a front desk CA.
Yeah, well, you don't have to be as assertive.
Exactly. And so as we're thinking about chiropractic assistants in the front desk, like one of the things that I learned along the way was to experience the office as if you were the patient, right? Walk into the same door, sit in the same seat, use the same bathroom, lay on the same therapy table or adjustment table. And when you do that and you're doing it from a standpoint of what are they seeing, smelling, feeling, hearing, sometimes it could surprise you.
Sometimes it will shock you. If some of you have high-lows, for example, those tables that go up and down, and you look down the nose piece and you go, oh my God, I think there's something actually growing there. Or you're lying on your back and you're looking up at the light and there are bugs there that are having birthdays.
Yeah.
They've been there so long. So the whole point is that you 5-sense your office. One of the senses that's most adaptable is the sense of smell. After about 5 minutes, You don't smell what's in your office. But trust me, the patients walking through the door for their appointment, they do. They know. They know exactly. And you don't want people walking out of your office and not telling you things that you should know. Because just like CAs have personality styles, so do your patients. And if your patient is a non-confrontational patient, like an amiable or an analytical, they may not like what you have going on in your office, but they're not going to tell you. What are they going to do? They're just going to leave.
It's like that person that doesn't tell you you've got spinach in your teeth, right? And you're walking around all day. Hey, Mark, by the way.
So I'm going to reveal something. My wife, when I first met her, so I was getting all gussied up to go on our first kind of date. It was a lunch date, but our first date. And so being seasoned,
I can smell the Aramis cologne as you speak.
No, it was Axe.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
No, it wasn't. So getting all gussied up and being of seasoned age, you tend to have hairs growing in places you don't normally have hair.
I have no idea where he's going with this.
So you don't. You've never heard this one. So I had some hairs in my ears, growing out of the
This is what I live with
my
everyone.
ears. And so I would shave them.
Okay.
Just getting all gussied up. Well, I wasn't quite as careful as I should have been. And what did I do? I cut my ear and didn't know it.
Oh, it didn't know it.
So I'm sitting there across from my future wife with blood on my ear. And I'm laughing. We're talking, we're having a great time. And finally, for this kind of new person in my life said, I'm sorry, I have to fix this. And she dips a napkin into some water and she wipes my ear.
And that's when you knew.
I was in love.
The whole foreground blurred everybody. There was a spotlight on the two of them.
And I was in love saying, this is the woman for me.
And she said, this is going to be my life, taking care of this guy.
And it has been that for 20 years this month.
Knowing his wife, she's a saint. Yes. For putting up with you.
He gets that a lot.
Yeah, so. Right. So anyway, focus. Back to our front desk CAs, right?
Yes.
So, again, they're my peeps because I've been a chiropractic assistant. I still feel like I am some days, or at least training them for sure. And looking at all of the different types of chiropractic assistant responsibilities, I have to say, docs, if you're going to approach hiring, managing, and working with a chiropractic assistant, if you're going to approach them as just an employee who's just doing a job, well, then they're probably going to feel that from you. So you really do want to make it a career choice, not a job choice. Now, there'll be some, of course, that this is just a job, a stepping stone, or, something to do, or whatever it may be. But it doesn't mean you have to approach that position in the way that they are.
And that means they probably won't be there very long because you're going to pay attention to these things and you're going to develop that team mindset so that this person at the front desk will be the person you want them to be.
And when you lean into those chiropractic assistants, you might be surprised as life goes on, years go by, how well they develop and what they can develop into beyond just a front desk responsibility or a back end responsibility. They could be the next Paul Andrews. Oh my God, did I say it?
I was going to say it for you, but you took it away from me.
Right. And I knew our listeners like, who are you, Paul Andrews? I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, if you only knew.
Do
you know who I am?
No. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He's part of All Things Chiropractic.
That's right. So as we wind down, any words of wisdom?
I'm going to leave you with the one thought that you should have yourself and definitely transmit and transfer to your staff if they don't already have it. And that's just love what you do and do what you love.
There it is. Say no more. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.